One brutal knee collision can silently erase the hidden stabilizer, keeping your entire leg from collapsing backward under pressure. The attacker arrives like a speeding motorcycle, and the defender unknowingly places his lower leg directly inside the danger zone. When force strikes the front of the shin, the tibia gets violently shoved backward against its natural limits.
The PCL absorbs impossible stress until microscopic strands begin snapping one after another without mercy.
Without the PCL, the tibia suddenly loses its backward restraint and starts drifting where it should never go.
Standing becomes deception because the joint may look functional while hidden instability quietly spreads damage.
Every uncontrolled slide transfers extra strain into tissues never designed to handle that relentless movement pattern. Many careers unravel later because instability keeps collecting invisible costs long after the original collision.
Directly confronting overwhelming momentum rarely proves strength, because structure often breaks before courage runs out.
The smartest competitors survive by redirecting danger instead of volunteering their bodies as targets for destruction. Whether in sport, preserving structure beats reckless sacrifice. The injury is already evolving because swelling begins rewriting how the joint communicates with every movement. Pain is not the damage itself, because your nervous system broadcasts alarms long before the full destruction appears. Many athletes mistake survival for recovery when adrenaline hides instability during the most critical minutes. Every damaged fiber reduces the system capacity to resist backward translation of the lower leg. The entire architecture depends on restraint, and one failed anchor changes every force crossing the knee.
Rotation becomes dangerous because instability magnifies stress during movements once considered completely routine.
The cartilage begins paying the hidden bill when stabilizers disappear and abnormal pressure concentrates into smaller regions.
The original hit lasted seconds, but the consequences may continue shaping movement for years afterward. One joint remains controlled while the other quietly sacrifices efficiency with every step taken. Simple movements expose weaknesses that explosive competition often disguises until the damage becomes impossible to ignore.
The body launches emergency repairs immediately, yet repair alone cannot restore lost mechanical stability.
Many careers change because one reckless decision creates consequences that preparation cannot fully reverse. Each stride redistributes stress differently when the original stabilizing blueprint no longer functions correctly.
Landing safely demands precise control, and instability turns ordinary impacts into accumulating structural threats.
Secondary structures often suffer next because they inherit burdens the damaged ligament can no longer manage. When the main barrier fails, every supporting wall must absorb forces it was never built to endure.
The hardest battle often begins after the collision, when adaptation becomes more important than raw toughness.
Recovery starts when stability becomes the mission, because strength without control only repeats the same disaster. The comeback begins with movements so small they seem meaningless, yet they rebuild the foundation of survival. Healing tissue forms new connections, but those connections initially lack the strength of the original structure.
Balance exposes weaknesses, because stability depends on countless corrections happening beneath conscious awareness.
Tiny receptors constantly report joint position, and injury can silence many of those critical signals. The challenge is not producing force, but controlling force when unexpected movement threatens the damaged system.
Recovery recruits surrounding muscles to compensate for protection once provided by the injured ligament. Every controlled repetition teaches the body how to trust movement again without surrendering stability.
Strength returns gradually
because biological architecture cannot be rushed without increasing future risk. Impatience seeks speed while wisdom seeks durability, because shortcuts often reopen wounds still learning to heal. The crowd notices game day, but recovery victories happen in silence long before public success appears. Efficient movement spreads stress evenly, while instability concentrates danger into vulnerable locations.
Modern science measures hidden weaknesses before the body creates obvious symptoms of failure.
Changing directions safely requires precise timing between muscles, ligaments, and the brain processing feedback. The body survives chaos when multiple systems cooperate, instead of relying on one structure alone.
Recovery succeeds when supporting systems grow stronger than the weakness left behind by injury.
Smart positioning often prevents collisions that courage alone would willingly absorb without hesitation. Confidence returns when communication between brain and body becomes reliable under increasing demands. The same moment that destroyed stability can become the catalyst for mastering movement more intelligently. Speed becomes safer when mechanics improve, because efficiency reduces unnecessary strain across vulnerable structures. Healthy movement protects tissues by distributing load instead of allowing repeated abuse in one area. Every setback creates a choice between repeating old mistakes or rebuilding with greater awareness. The strongest return is not physical dominance, but understanding exactly how disaster nearly happened.
Proper angles redirect momentum instead of challenging unstoppable forces through sheer stubborn resistance. Nature rewards adaptation because flexible systems survive pressures that rigid systems eventually cannot withstand. True resilience means preserving structure through intelligence, because survival belongs to those who adapt before breaking.
The greatest test arrives when recovery leaves the clinic and faces the unpredictable reality of competition.
Experience teaches that winning position often matters more than winning violent collisions at full speed.
Efficient defenders guide momentum away from danger instead of allowing impact to dictate the outcome. Survival belongs to those who understand angles, because direct confrontation rewards destruction more than bravery. Prediction reduces risk because recognizing danger early creates options unavailable during last-second panic. A stable system distributes stress intelligently, allowing performance to remain powerful without sacrificing longevity.
Control is not domination, because the smartest victories happen without exposing critical weaknesses.
Nature repeatedly proves that adaptation defeats resistance when overwhelming force refuses to slow down.
Technique transforms dangerous moments into manageable ones because structure remains protected through intelligent design.
Small adjustments create massive consequences because force multiplies every flaw hidden within movement patterns. Every lesson from failure becomes valuable only when transformed into behavior during future challenges.
Discipline often appears less dramatic than sacrifice, and yet discipline keeps careers alive far longer.
The body thrives when forces travel efficiently, because no single structure carries the entire burden.
Rigid pride breaks under pressure, while adaptable systems survive by evolving with changing conditions.
Mastery emerges when confidence no longer depends on reckless risks to prove personal courage. And
hidden stabilizers rarely receive attention until their absence reveals how essential they always were.
Wisdom is not avoiding all danger, but recognizing which battles offer only unnecessary losses.
The most valuable scars are the ones that teach others how to avoid repeating them.
True strength combines awareness, preparation, and restraint.
The lesson remains timeless because preserving structure through intelligence always defeats blind confrontation with force.
Now the hidden truth becomes obvious, because the collision was never the real enemy, and the uncontrolled force was. One violent push forced the tibia backward and exposed exactly why the PCL exists in the first place. Those microscopic fibers looked insignificant until their absence destabilized an entire chain of movement. The knee was never one structure, because every component depended on the others for survival. The biggest mistake was believing courage alone could defeat momentum, traveling at unstoppable speed.
Every consequence traced back to one decision, proving small moments often control massive outcomes.
The payoff arrives here because intelligence achieves the result that reckless sacrifice failed to secure.
One path destroys structure, while the other preserves power, and both begin with a single choice. Nature keeps repeating the lesson, because adaptation consistently outlasts resistance against overwhelming pressure.
Real veterans teach prevention, because surviving one disaster is less valuable than avoiding it entirely.
The strongest stabilizers are often invisible until losing them reveals their true importance.
In 2026, countless people still confuse confrontation with strength and pay the price for that illusion.
The future belongs to those who understand leverage, timing, and positioning, not blind resistance against everything. Your structure determines your destiny, because once critical supports fail, recovery always costs more than prevention.
Remember this forever. The wise redirect.